Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Krishna Hare Ram Hare जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय हरे कृष्ण मुकुंद प्रभु and कांचन माता ये हरि बोल you are on mute हरे कृष्णा कांचन माता ये मुकुंद प्रभु
म्यूट हो तुम लोग
so let's start Vishnupadaya Krishna Prithaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Deve Pracharine Kesha Navadi Shathari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Sadi Bhakta Vrinda. Krishna
Advaita Gadada Sivasadi
Bhakta
Vrinda.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Prabhu Nityananda
Advaita Gadada Sri Bhakta
Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Prabhu Nityananda Shivasari Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna
Hare Hare
Hare Rama
Hare
Hare Rama Rama Rama
Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama, Rama
Rama
Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare
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 Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radhe, Shama Sundar Radhe, Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Sita Ram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Radhe, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauralita, Jaya Gauralita, Jaya Gauralita, Jaya Gauralita. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada,
Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhu.
Hey, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev,
Jaya Gurudev. Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaur
Hari Hari
Hari
Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Nam Sankirtan ki
Jai.
jai. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Kirtan Kids ki Jai. Kanchan Mataji Mukunda Prabhu. Thank you very much. Wonderful Kirtan. Thank you everyone for joining our regular satsang, Friday satsang. And Ajit Krishna Prabhu just texted me that he's going to be 5 minutes late, normal than 5 minutes. That means 8:05 is supposed to join. He'll be joining any moment. So until then, we can actually recap previous week's session. Anybody wants to take a lead on that? Hare Krishna. What verses did we discuss?
Hare Krishna
last week?
Prabhuji.
Yes. Who is this?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Pranam always
Hare
Srila
Krishna
Prabhupada.
Mataji, Dandavat from Guru Srila Prabhupada. Can you start your video?
Yes, Prabhuji. Give me a second. Yes, Prabhuji. So, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So we had seen 3.6 verse last week and 3.7. So in that, Krishna was telling Arjuna renouncing your work will or putting on the dress of renunciation will alone not help you in progress of spiritual path. And we had seen the foolish person who's trying to control his mind, but he's still dwelling on that sense gratification things. Then it is of no use because it's other than Krishna. So why Krishna was why Krishna was telling Arjuna? Because Arjuna was representing us as a common person. So how we should follow, that is the instruction given to us through Arjuna. So and Krishna said he had given us for common person becoming a sannyasa is not the solution. So he had given a solution not based on varnashrama dharma also. He had given us he had told us from here the concept of karma yoga started. What is the concept of karma yoga? Krishna had explained that. So he had told the main thing is to control the mind. So controlling mind is through two ways. One, it is so he had told it's not immediate process. As soon as you renounce, you cannot control your mind. It's not that way. It is a gradual process. And the second thing is, it does not depend upon the varnashrama, which varnashrama you belong to, either brahmacharya or sannyasa order or grihastha. So the main concept is you have to control the mind. So controlling the mind, we have to focus on Krishna, do Krishna conscious activities. So that could be done by body, mind and words. So so that way we will be engaged in Krishna consciousness. Krishna wanted us to engage in Krishna consciousness. So Arjuna was having a confusion between fighting for the war. How can that be renouncing work rather than I go sit isolated and meditate upon you? So for that, Krishna had given renouncing just like that does not mean everything. You have to, whatever it is, it's to please Krishna, whatever activity you do. So so that kind of activity which we do not do with Krishna as the center, he gives a word called mityachara. That's false renunciation. And for our mind to be controlled, we need to do a cleansing process. This cleansing process as we should try to think about Krishna always. So this can be through our chanting, deity worship, and reading Bhagavatam books, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that all these, and following the four regulative principles. And Prabhuji also had given us about the Brahmaji's prayers, and we had even seen about Sanatan Goswami's way of like how he had given us body, mind, and words. So Tanvan Manobir. So that was the thing. And it is like Sanatan Goswami had given one Manobir through for three different people, devotees, non-devotees, and Krishna. So we, according to the shloka, we talk about devotees. So devotees is like we can touch Krishna through our body, and we can think of Krishna. So that way we call the audience directly. That is the thing. And Vani, always speaking about Krishna Katha. So these are the things which we can. So that's it, Prabhuji.
Wonderful, Mataji. You
Prabhu.
covered almost everything. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat pranam all Guru Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat pranam Guru Prabhupada.
Sorry, Prabhu, we just started recapping the whole last week's session. So.
No, I'm glad. I don't know if you saw my text saying I'm
Yes,
going to be about 5 minutes late. So I'm glad you started the recap. And actually, Shanti Mataji gave a very, very thorough, very comprehensive recap of last time. So very wonderful. Anybody else would like to add some points to the recap?
I just like to add one sentence which you mentioned, which actually struck me very well. So you said that this renunciation is not just by changing the dress, external dress, or the social order. Okay, it's a gradual process to get to that renunciation. So in my mind, I always think about Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, is an exalted devotee. Srila Prabhupada didn't renounce everything at very young age. He went through the stages of Varnashrama Dharma. So he came to a sannyasa ashrama, and then basically he renounced everything. Otherwise, he was still a grahastha, following all the family practices and all that. Still he was practicing Krishna consciousness. So he is the best perfect example, so not just renounce everything and run away from family and then still internally think about all the sense objects, and then still externally you project yourself as a renunciate. No, that won't work. That's what Krishna is saying here. So that I like, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's actually very, very important point, especially for people like us who are in the Grahastha ashram. And it's important for us to take instructions from a life example of Prabhupada. Similarly, today is Bhaktivinoda Thakurji's disappearance day, and he also set such an ideal example of how, as a Grahastha, he performed all of his householder duties, and at the same time, he was totally surrendered to Krishna, and everything was done for the pleasure of Krishna. So these are actually very important lessons for us. Ramchandra, you going to say something?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat pranam.
So, yeah, really wonderful. You told about the Bhaktivinoda Thakur Maharaj. He is one of the, seventh Goswami. So, this verse, what we went through the last time, that is the sixth and seventh. Seventh, I see it is very, very well suited for us being the householder. I see that the verse yasto indriyani manasa niyame ravate arjuna. So as you very well explained in the last time as well. So sincere dutiful householder is the better than the attached sannyasi. If someone become in the previous one, last class, I believe we went through, like the someone took the sannyas premature just by the excitement or just by knowing that, and his senses are not in control. So there is a major chance he will fall down. So like it's better to be a sincere, dutiful householder rather than attached sannyasi. So, so being in the our householder things means being grihastha. How we can practice Krishna consciousness better and better, so that like we can perform all our duties properly and go back to home, back to Godhead. That is our aim, to remember Krishna all the time. And yeah, so that's what I can say at this point of time for this. So yeah, that is what I remember. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. This, that seventh verse is definitely very instructive for us as grahasthas. Anybody else? Other points?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Krishna Mother.
Prabhuji, last class you explained about the sincere person. Who is sincere person? Like those who are trying to practice Krishna conscious very sincerely, there is no manipulation and there is no lie in that, and there is no contamination, and that person is progressing very gradually. That means that person is sincere. So it was the very touching point for me. And the another thing was that by focusing on spiritual progress and engaging ourselves in devotional services very sincerely, one can control our mind. So the whole thing of whether we are living in materially we are living or spiritually we are living, so controlling our mind is very important to progress in Krishna conscious. Being spirituality, our mind should be very controlled. So it will come only by the sincere devotion services. And the another one was our goal of our life should be cleansing our mind and detachment from the attachment. So whatever the attachment and desires we have, so we should try to detach from those things. So then only the progress in spirituality or Krishna consciousness is possible. Otherwise, it's not possible. And you told about the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stories with the Brahmana when he met, and then that Brahmana was a grihastha and he was following all the four regulative principles, but he was like at some point he was very disappointed, like because in limbs of 5 bhakti, the reciting in dham is also there. So he was confused, like how being a grihastha, how can I be living in southern Indian, and how can I get the association of Vrindavan, Mayapur, like that, or Jagannath Puri. So that then Mahaprabhu, he explained that there are so many different ways of reciting in dham. So if you are keeping yourself, your surrounding, your house as a dham, and you are practicing Krishna conscious very sincerely, then that place, it doesn't matter where you are, that place automatically becomes the dham. It's so that you explained over that time. And acharyas also always tell, like we should always follow 4 regulatory principles and engage our body, mind, and speech always in Krishna conscious. So that is the best way to please Krishna and to achieve Krishna prema Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much. This was a very thorough kind of explanation of the points that we had made. I mean, as you all have been repeating this, I've been remembering these points that were made in the class. I had also forgotten quite a few of these points. So thank you so much, Mataji, for bringing those up and reminding all of us. And really wonderful points from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. And of course, the instructions of the Acharyas. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Anybody?
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else?
I think we are good to start.
So I think this is very nice. Such wonderful recaps, I mean, which indicate how serious everybody is about understanding these subject matters. And I think everybody's thoughts and ideas and recaps, they strengthen each one of us's understanding of the subject. So this is really very encouraging to see such a high level of involvement in what is being discussed, and recapping is kind of the evidence that everybody's interested and very seriously studying this subject matter. So it's certainly very inspiring for me. So thank you so much, Mataji's, Prabhuji's. Okay. 1 second. Thank you. All right, so I think, should we continue with the next verse then?
Yes, Prabhu.
So we just start with the invocation prayers and then proceed from there. Om Agyan Timrasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakanamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Drishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we'll read starting with text 9.
Yes, Prabhu. Text 9. Anybody? Kanchan Mataji? Is she there? Or Mukunda Prabhu?
Kanchan will start.
Yagnathat karma nonyatra
Yajnata
Karmononyatra
Yatra
loko yam karma bandhana
Loko Yam Karma Bandhana
tadartham karma kaunteya
Tadartam Karma Kaunteya
yukta sangha samachara.
Mukta Sangha Samachara.
Translation. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Rachana Mataji?
Prabhuji, can I say?
Yes. Good.
Mataji, Prabhuji, which sloka?
310.
Okay. Sahayagna prajashrishva
Sahayagna
Prajashishva
purovacha prajapati
Purovacha
Purovacha
Prajapati
anena prasevishyadvam
Anena
Prasavisya
Pravisyadvanam
Eshavostva istakamaduk.
Esa
Ostva
Kamadho.
Kamadok.
Hare Krishna.
Translation, Mukund translation.
And the Lord, in the beginning of the creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation." Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mukund Prabhu. So, who wants to go next? Prajna?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prajna Mataji, please.
11.
Devan Baba Yatanena
Devan Bhavayanena
Yatanena
Dede Baba Yantuva
Te
Te
Deva
Deva
Bhayantuva.
Bhayantuva
Parasparam Bhavayanta
Parasparam Bhavayantah
Bhavayantaha
Shreya Param Avapyasyata.
Shreya Param
Teyaha
Avapyasta.
Avapyata.
The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. So, shall we repeat
Yes, Prabhu.
Brinda Devi?
Which sloka?
3-9.
Yagnartat karmanonyatra
Yagnata karmano yatra
lokoyam karma bandhanaha
lokoyam karma bandhana
tadartam karma kaunteya
tadartham karma kaunteya
mukta sangha samacharaha.
mukta sangha samachara.
Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duty for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Brinda.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I?
Prabhu, yes, please go ahead.
Sahayagna Prajashvishwa
Sahayagya praja srisva
Purovacha Prajapatihi
purovacha prajapati
Nena Prasavitishvam
anena pravishyadvam
Ishavosishta Kamadu.
Nado.
The Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation." Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I will read text number 11 for my purification. Devan bhavayatena.
Devan
Te deva bhavayantu vah.
Te deva bhavayantu
Parasparam bhavayantaha.
Parasparam bhavayantaha
Shreya param avapyasatha.
Shreyaha paramavapyatah.
And the translation by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charna Bhakti Vedant Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
The demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you. And thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will regain for all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else?
I request Mukta Sangha Prabhu to read the 9th verse for his name, Mukta Sangha Par Samachara.
Okay, chapter 3, 9th verse. Yagnartat karmanonyatra
Yagnat
Karma no yatra
loko yam karma bandhanaha
loko yam karma bandhanaha
tadartam karma kaunteya
tadartham karma kaunteya
mukta sangha samachara.
Mukta Sangha Samachara.
Sangha samachara.
Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way, you will always remain free from bondage. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. All right. So with that, I think we'll jump into the discussion since I did the invocation prayer before only. So Ramchand Prabhu, thank you for suggesting that Mukta Sangha Prabhu should read that verse. That was very appropriate. So as we see in this verse, so Yagnarthat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhanaha tad artham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So this verse actually is the key to performing activities. In this chapter of Karma Yoga, chapter 3, Krishna is going to obviously describe the details and the benefits of Karma Yoga. But here is the key in this verse as to what is the meaning of Karma Yoga. And this verse, the way it's positioned in this chapter, it's the 9th verse of the chapter, but it kind of gives a summary of what Karma Yoga is and what Krishna is trying to get at, or what is the main message of this chapter. And so we'll discuss this verse today because it's got a lot of material in it, and it's the focus of it sets the tone for the rest of the chapter. And you see, so far, verses 3, chapter 3 up to verses 8, we have basically Krishna was describing about work and so on and so forth. And so we discussed the question that Arjun had in his mind, that he didn't want to perform any work that would cause sinful reaction. And Krishna said, I will explain to you how work can be both binding or it can be liberating. So it depends. There are two types of work. And so the key is, like in verse 7 also we read, that the idea is not to give up work. And prior to that also we had read, I'm just trying to see which verse it was, where the nature of the soul was described. Even in text 8, Krishna says, perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. And also in In text 4, Krishna says, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve liberation or freedom from reaction. So, and then in text 5, Krishna says everyone is forced to act helplessly. So in all these verses, we are seeing that Krishna is going on emphasizing that you have to work, you have to work, you have to work, you have to work. And he's stressing on Arjun that don't think that simply by giving up what you're supposed to do in this situation, you will be free from reaction or you will become renounced. Giving up work doesn't necessarily make you renounced. And as we discussed in this recap and everybody explained so nicely, that simply by giving up work, you cannot be renounced. Your mind has to be cleansed in order for renunciation to happen. And that's a gradual process. It's not a sudden change in dress that will cause your consciousness to become renounced. So it's a process. So Krishna is saying that you have to act. But because you don't want your work to bind you to this material world, you don't want your work to create sinful reaction or any reaction for that matter, how should one act such that action is also performed and one gets liberated also? So that the answer to that is given in this verse. And then in future verses, more background will be given in order to better understand the message of this verse. So text 9, yagnarthat karmano anyatra. So yagnarthat, made up of two words, yagna and arthat. So yagna pertains to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is also known as Yagna. And Yagna Arthat means for the benefit of. Artha. We think of Artha as economic development. Artha is benefit. So Yagnartha. So work done for the benefit of Vishnu. Krishna is saying that should be done. That should be done. Otherwise, loka ayam karma bandhana. Karma bandhana. We get bound to this material world by our activities. And then he says, tad artham karma kaunteya. Tad artham. So for Krishna, the work that is the artham, again, yagnarthat and tad artham, same, the artha is coming there, meaning for the benefit of. Work done for the benefit of Vishnu. Karma kaunteya mukta sangha. Mukta sangha. So mukta sangha, Prabhuji, the meaning of your name, so nice, is liberated from association. Prabhupada says liberated from association, liberated from material association. So this kind of work done for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu, work done for the pleasure of Krishna, that frees us from the bondage of this material world. That is the key that has been given here. And then samachara. Samachara means to do it perfectly. So now we might say that we are not capable of doing things perfectly, and that's a fact. So how do we follow the instructions of this verse? And Prabhupada says that if the work is performed under the direction of a spiritual master, under the guidance of a spiritual master, because the spiritual master is an expert, if you simply follow what he's saying, then you will be doing it perfectly. On our own, we may not be perfect, but if we simply follow the perfect advice of the perfect person, then we will be doing the perfect thing. And Prabhupada actually gives a very good example also. He says, and Prabhupada was giving a class, he was speaking, he was giving this lecture, so he was speaking to the microphone. And Prabhupada says, that if a child, there were some children there, he said, if the child asks the father, my dear father, what is this? The father says, this is a microphone. And then if the child goes and tells others, this is a microphone, then even though the child may not be perfect, but the child's message is perfect. He's telling the right thing. This is a microphone. So Prabhupada says, similarly, if we simply follow the instructions of the perfect authority, their instructions are perfect. And if we simply follow them, then we are doing the perfect thing. So that is where the samachara, the meaning of samachara becomes a little more clearer for us and a little more attainable for us. Because on our own, obviously, we are not perfect. So following the working for the pleasure of Krishna or Vishnu under the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, that is the message that is being given in this verse. Now, up until this point, we had read about, the idea of nishkam karma. Nishkam meaning without desire. So performing activities without desire for the results. So that is nishkam karma. But the thing is that simply by performing karma in a nishkam manner, which is what was described in the previous verses, without attachment or with detachment from the result, that's good. But here in this verse, Krishna is saying, nishkam karma can be taken to a higher level. You're working without attachment to the result, but if there is some knowledge that you have acquired or the gyan which is coming from the Bhagavad Gita, that this work should be performed for the satisfaction of Vishnu, then you have combined the nishkam karma philosophy with pleasure for Vishnu. So then it becomes yoga. So it becomes nishkam karma yoga. Because Krishna is saying that way, not only are you performing work for the pleasure of Krishna or for Vishnu, but at the same time, you are not attached to the results for yourself. See, the thing is, every living entity, if you think about it, every living entity, whether human being or animal, under the influence of the modes of nature, everybody is acting to please their senses, right? All the time. I mean, if you look at animals, if you see there's some cows are grazing in the pasture, they're eating grass because it is satisfying their belly. Same way, all day, if you see animals, birds and all, they are out looking for food. Human beings also, we spend so much of our time earning a living to take care of our needs and get food and shelter and so forth. So these activities are performed by both human beings and animals. But Krishna is saying, action you have to perform even to just maintain yourself. He said that in the previous verse in this chapter 3. And it is not as if you should stop working to maintain yourself. That's what he was telling Arjuna. You cannot stop working to maintain yourself, because Arjuna said, I'll leave this battlefield and take sannyas. Krishna said, no, you don't have to do that. Act to maintain yourself. But at the same time, if your goal becomes higher than simply just to maintain yourself, but the goal becomes, I will act to please Vishnu, then that is the higher standard. And that is explained as when a person starts thinking like that, then they have combined the philosophy of nishkam karma with nishkam or with gyan. So therefore it becomes nishkam karma yoga. Okay. So then, and And if one continues to perform activities in that manner, gradually it takes us to the platform of bhakti. So now the question arises that if a person is overly attached to material life and cannot perform Nishkam Karma Yoga, then what is the person supposed to do? So to answer that question, verses 10 to 16, actually the next seven verses will actually address that question. And they gradually describe how a person can be raised from the platform of Karma Kand up to the platform of Karma Yoga. Remember last time we had discussed that the Vedas, a vast majority of the 10 billion verses in the Vedas deal with Karma Kand. And the reason for that is that at every point in our existence, we are looking for satisfaction or to maintain ourselves, to satisfy our senses. You see, this is a natural need. And so the verses of the Karma Kand section of the Vedas introduces or prescribes methods by which we can satisfy our desires, but in a regulated way. Regulated meaning understanding that if I need to satisfy this desire, I must perform this puja or please the Lord in this way and so forth. When we do that, and then we see that our desires are satisfied, it helps us develop faith in the higher power. So that is why the Karma Kand section of the Vedas is so vast, because it is trying to address the various desires of all the living entities. But it is designed in such a way that it then gradually raises one to the point of God consciousness. And when one comes to the point of God consciousness, accepting a higher authority, then further questions arise in one's mind, and that's how it gradually elevates one to the point of bhakti. But that discussion we'll do further by going to the other, by going to the future verses. So now, therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed. So in the translation, Krishna is saying, therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way, always remain free from bondage. Now, one of the things that is going to be discussed further here, so in this verse, Krishna is directly saying that perform your activities for the satisfaction of Vishnu. But we are also going to see the next verse that we read. Next verse, the translation was, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu. And blessed them by saying, quote, be thou happy by this yajna or sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. So this introduction to the next verse, that in the beginning of creation, the Lord sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices. So this is what I was referring to earlier, that there are sacrifices prescribed for achieving certain desires, for fulfilling desires. And these have all been given by Krishna in the Vedas. And so that introduction is being made here. But the one point to remember is, if you try to connect verses 9 and 10 a little bit, verse 10 is basically now starting to get into the concept of Karma Kand, and from 10 to 16, we'll see how it gradually transitions from Karma Kand to Karma Yoga. But the connection between 9 and 10 is a very important one to understand. In 10, Krishna is starting to describe the Karmakand process. In 9, he's already saying that you should perform work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. So in other words, we will find in this chapter, and I'm just giving a little overview, that there will be a progression from Karmakand to Karma Yoga to Bhakti Yoga. And then this is a step by step process. However, in text 9, Krishna has given a way to jump from step 1 to the highest step. And he's saying if you perform work for the satisfaction of Vishnu, then you have actually bypassed this step-by-step process of elevation, and you have understood the essence of the Vedic literature. So like in chapter 15, Krishna says, Vedeshta sarve aham eva vedyo, Vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. That the purpose of the Vedas is to understand me. Vedeshta sarve aham eva vedyo. I am to be understood by studying the Vedas. And Krishna says, I know this because Vedanta krit, I am the author of the Vedas. Vedanta vid, I am the knower of the Vedas. Eva chaham. So you see, because I am the author of the Vedas, I know why I've written it. And I'm telling you, Arjun, I have given the Vedic knowledge so that you can understand me. Vedeshta sarve aham eva vedya. So that connection we are seeing here in text 9, in verse 9, where Krishna is saying all work should be performed for satisfaction of Vishnu. So that allows us to bypass this step-by-step process of elevation from Karmakand to Bhakti Yoga by directly introducing the idea of working to satisfy Vishnu. So this actually highlights a very important point. That important point is the benefit of taking to devotional service. Benefit of taking to devotional service means, what do we gain by becoming a devotee? At the most basic level, every devotee understands that we should perform activities to please Krishna. Right? This verse 9, that work should be performed for satisfaction of Vishnu, is nothing new for devotees. We have devotees always hear this. But this is also the highest knowledge. So this highest knowledge is presented to us in such a manner that we become so familiar with it that we say, okay, this is the fact. And so in other parts of the Bhagavad Gita, also Krishna says, Manushanam Saraschu Kaschiditati Siddhaye, meaning that out of thousands of people, one may want to become liberated. So those who follow what's being described in text 10 and 11 and so forth, they are making gradual progress. And those who are progressing gradually, 1 out of thousands will want to take liberation or will want to seek liberation. Then Krishna says that of the thousands who get liberation, there'll be one who will want to serve Krishna. But the beauty is that for devotees, Prabhupada has already introduced that concept of doing everything for the satisfaction of Krishna, doing everything to serve Krishna, which means he has given us the formula which thousands upon thousands upon thousands of liberated people and elevated yogis, they may not also reach that point. They may also not reach that point. Therefore, this is the benefit of becoming a devotee, the benefit of taking to devotional service. So then the question becomes, how can we do justice to this knowledge? And how we can do justice to this is by strictly following the instructions of the acharyas, of the spiritual master, and what is said here in text 9. So again, I mean, the philosophy is given in Bhagavad Gita. And then the case histories, the examples of those who implemented this philosophy is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. We've discussed this many times. And so in the context of this verse, we find that Parikshit Maharaj early on in Canto 2, he asked questions, and basically Parikshit Maharaj, he was a king and he was ruling over people naturally. And while he himself was very interested in Krishna, as a king, he had to set an example for the population. So he performed all the Vedic rituals that are supposed to be performed by a grahastha. And so dharma, arth, kam, religion, following principles of religion to get economic development, to satisfy one's desires, dharma, artha, kam, that was being followed by Parikshit Maharaj to set an example for the rest of the population, so that all of them would follow that process, and ultimately some of them would seek liberation. So then when Parikshit Maharaj, towards the end of his, or when he knew that now he has only 7 days to live, he immediately jumped to hearing about the glories and the pastimes of Krishna. He said, I just want to now engage myself in this. So this is the example, and I'll just very quickly give you the verse from there. Let me just open it 1 second. So the translation of the verses: O great sages, the great soul Maharaj Parikshit, constantly wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna, knowing well of his imminent death, renounced all sorts of fruitive activities, namely acts of religion, economic development, and sense gratification. So these are fruitive activities: acts of religion, economic development, sense gratification. And thus fixed himself firmly in his natural love for Krishna and asked these questions exactly as you are asking me. So this is, of course, Sutta Goswami saying this, but Prabhupada describes that these activities of religion, economic development, and sense gratification, these are generally attractive for conditioned souls struggling in the material world. Everybody has anxieties in the material world, and you want that your desires should be satisfied. So Krishna has given the prescription for how to be happy by satisfying your desires. But the higher goal is to do everything for the satisfaction of Vishnu, as stated in text 9. And so this is an example. Here we're seeing in Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj immediately said, I'm going to stop these 3 activities of religion, artha, and kama. And now I want to only focus on hearing the glories of Krishna. So this has also been stated by Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj also stated something very similar, and I'll just read the translation to you. Religion, economic development, and sense gratification are celebrated as 3 means of attaining the path of salvation. Now, there is an important connection that is important for grahasthas to focus on. He says, of these, ikshatrayi especially, meaning knowledge of the self, knowledge of fruitive acts, and logic, and also politics and economics. This Prahlad Maharaj is saying, so let me repeat this again. Prahlad Maharaj says, knowledge of the self, knowledge of fruitive acts, politics and economics are different means of livelihood. Different means of livelihood. That means we can earn our living by following these practices. All these are different subjects of Vedic education. So see how wonderful the Vedas are. They give us education on how to earn a living also. And so Prahlad Maharaj says, all these are different subjects of Vedic education, and therefore I consider them temporary engagements. They are temporary engagements. On the other hand, surrendering unto the Supreme Lord Vishnu is a factual gain in life, and I consider it the ultimate truth. So Prahlad Maharaj says, surrendering unto the Supreme Lord Vishnu is a factual gain in life. So in other words, what he's saying is that in this life, we have to work to maintain our bodies. We have to work to satisfy certain desires and all that. But these activities and these satisfactions and these gains are temporary. And we agree with that. When somebody leaves his or her body, everything that we have accumulated stays here. Nothing goes with us. But Prahlad Maharaj says that surrendering unto the Supreme Lord Vishnu is a factual gain in life, and I consider it to be the ultimate truth. But if we surrender to the lotus feet of Vishnu, then that will always be with us. That is the qualification of bhakti. That is the description of bhakti, and that goes with us, and that allows us to get out of this entanglement of this material world. By simply working to satisfy our desires according to the Vedic principles, while it's a good thing, but if it doesn't lead to the instruction or the understanding of verse 9, which is do everything for satisfaction of Vishnu, then we will only make temporary gain. And Prahlad Maharaj is saying, if we want to make permanent gain, then perform activities for the satisfaction of Vishnu. And oh, by the way, on the side, you will be able to maintain yourself also, but you have actually fulfilled the purpose of this human birth by understanding that you have to serve Vishnu. So I'll stop here, Prabhuji's, Mataji's. This verse has basically kind of set the tone for understanding the rest of the verses that are going to come in chapter 3. And the guiding principle is all the instructions that we read, like in text 10, also we touched upon it briefly, we'll discuss it more next time. These are designed for temporary gain, but taking care of our lives in a Vedic way. And the permanent gain comes from text 9, which is working for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. All right, Rudy, let's stop here. Any questions, comments, or thoughts you want to share?
Thank you very much, Prabhu. That was a very nice explanation. I want to add something to it.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So in one of the lectures, I'm not sure when, one of the Srila Prabhupada's lectures, he mentions that throughout the life we have been surrendering. Okay, so when we are kids, we surrender to our parents so that they take care of us, right? So when we grow a little bigger, we surrender on to our teachers when we go to school or college so that they can give us knowledge. And when we become grasta, we surrender to spouse. When the kids come, we actually surrender to kids. So our surrendering propensity is there. So that we cannot avoid. So instead of surrendering to all these temporary things, so why can't you surrender to Supreme Personality of Godhead? So the same surrender propensity, you just have to dovetail to surrendering to Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that because he's the only person who comes with you after your death also. None of the other people will come with you. So instead of surrendering to these people, these items, these materials, so surrender onto Supreme Personality of Godhead who comes with you, all the way along until Goloka. So that's the main point of surrendering. Thank you.
Very nice, Prabhu. That is the crux of the whole philosophy. That surrender unto Vishnu. Surrender unto Krishna. All the time we are serving somebody. In fact, he was joking and saying that in the Western countries, I find that everybody, even if they have nobody else to serve, then they will serve their pets. And very lovingly, they will clean up after the pets and all that. He says, because the serving tendency is innate in us. So why not serve Krishna? Thank you, Prabhuji. Other thoughts, comments?
Krishna,
Prabhuji,
Prabhuji.
you mentioned Vedeshti. No, sorry. Can you just repeat that term?
Oh, say that again, Mataji.
You mentioned Vedeshti Sarvesha one shlokam. That sounded very familiar.
Vedeshcha sarver aham eva vedya. That
Is it from
is
Bhagavad Gita?
सर्वाहस्याहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तस्मृतिर्ज्ञानम् अपोहनं
Onam cha.
वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेदान्तकृत् वेदवित् एव चाहम्
15:15.
15:15 very important shloka.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Welcome, Mataji. Ram Sham Prabhuji. You said?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I just wanted one clarification, yagna, whatever the sacrifice we do, that is for the satisfaction of the Vishnu, we know very well. So when we go for the incarnation, like Lord Vishnu incarnation is one of the name is Yagna itself. So he incarnated as a Yagna. So is there any correlation between that this whatever sacrifice we do, which is good to the Vishnu, is it because of Vishnu is having one incarnation as Yagna, and that through that incarnation of Yagna, it goes to the Vishnu. So something I was just trying to understand, or is there any correlation or kind of, or if you can clarify, Prabhuji. So that is there in the Bhagavatam first canto, third chapter, and starting verse itself, in the like Prabhupada Maharaj, when Sukadeva Goswami is mentioning that different incarnations, Prathama, Ditya, third, kind of these all incarnations. So there it was. So I did not get clarified there, Prabhuji. If you can put some light on that, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Very nice question. So the incarnation, I'll have to brush up on the verse that you're referring to kind of adequately answer if through that in incarnation Krishna is accepting the yagya. But certainly in many places we have seen that that like in today's verse also, yagna arthat, word that Krishna is yagna, Vishnu is yagna, and anything done for the satisfaction of Vishnu is called yagna arthat. And so another verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna describes the art of eating food, he says, Yagna Shishtachna Santo Muchante Sarvakil Vishe Bhunjate Tetva Gampapa Ye Pachanti Atma Karana. So the devotees of the Lord offer only foodstuffs that are offered to Vishnu. Yagna Shisht Ashina Santo. So devotees are only accepting foodstuffs that are offered to Vishnu. And what happens when they do that? Muchyante sarvakil vishay. That they become free from all miseries. Muchyante, free from sarvakil vishay. But on the other hand, bhunjate tetva agham papa ye pachanti atmakarana. If they are eating only for their own satisfaction, atmakarana, then bhunjate tetva agham papa, then they incur sinful reactions. So in many places, actually, this recommendation has been made by Krishna that that he is the beneficiary of all sacrifices. Now, whether he accepts it through the incarnation of Yagna, that probably is the case, but I'll have to brush up on that verse in order to say that for confirmation. But I'll do that and let you know next time, probably. That's a good question.
Sure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for clarifying. Yes, sure.
Yagna, I'm just trying to think I mean, all these references are there to that verse, basically. I mean, to the fact that Vishnu is Yagna.
Yeah, Prabhuji, in the Bhagavad Gita also Krishna said like whatever you do, whatever you offer, just offer for my satisfaction.
Yeah.
So that is fact, but by the name only, just I was wondering and just asked to you like, so yeah, whenever you get time, please go through that and
Okay, Prabhu.
we can get, yeah.
I will.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Other comments or questions, thoughts?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Krishna Mataji.
Sorry, Prabhuji, it was very wonderful lecture, nectarian lecture. I want to know the, as you were explaining about the Prahlad Maharaj what he instructed about the surrender. So the reference I want to know.
The reference, Mataji, from the Bhagavatam that I was talking about?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Mataji, that is Bhagavatam, Canto 7, 626. 7:626. In fact, somebody can pull it up on the computer quickly if you want. I'll give you the starting this thing, lines. Dharmartha kama iti yo. Dharm artha kama iti yo. Abhihitas trivarga.
Prabhuji, which chapter?
Bhagavatam 7:626. Actually, if you just Google Bhagavatam 7:626, it'll come up, I think. These days with technology, it is.
Dharmartha kama itiyo abhi.
Exactly.
Ikshatrayi naya dhamau vividha cha varta. So,
yes.
Religion, economic development, and sense gratification. These are described in the Vedas as three varga, or three ways to salvation. Within these three categories are education and self-realization. Ritualistic ceremonies performed according to Vedic injunction, logic, the science of law and order, and the various means of earning one's livelihood. These are the external subject matters of study in the Vedas, and therefore I consider them material. However, I consider surrender to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu to be transcendental.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
You're welcome, Mataji. So, I mean, Bhagavatam is so beautiful. It's got such nice examples of devotees who have executed on these instructions.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Mataji. And so, like Muktasanga Prabhu, if you want to read that part again about the livelihood, because it's important, right? We all are working for a livelihood. So the question arises, should we give that up to become good devotees? Or can we continue doing that and still be devotees?
So within these three categories, we're saying three varga, these three categories are education and self-realization, ritualistic ceremonies performed according to the Vedic injunctions, logic, the science of law and order, and the various means of earning one's livelihood.
Yeah.
These are external subject matters.
These are external subject matters of the Vedas.
Yeah,
so,
in the Vedas, and therefore I consider them material. However, I consider surrender to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu to be transcendental.
So you see, because he's describing the different levels of understanding of the Vedas. Somebody who just routinely reads the Vedas and says the Vedas are telling me how to earn my living and I'm earning my living accordingly, so I am perfect. And he's saying that is just a external subject matter. That is there in the Vedas, but the deeper hidden meaning is Vedeshta Sarve Rameva Vede, that I have to serve Vishnu. And why is that the internal meaning? Because by following if we think by following these instructions, external instructions as Prahlad Maharaj calls them, if we can get certain results, where are they coming from? Who is behind it? What is the power that is behind it that is making these instructions produce these results? And so the intelligent person understands that it is Vishnu who is behind these instructions. Therefore, the purpose of following these so-called external instructions is to get to the inner, deeper meaning, which is to develop devotion for Vishnu. Nice question, Mataji. Thank you for bringing that up for everybody's benefit. Other thoughts, comments, questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I have a question, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So, as in brief, when you mentioned about 8, 9, and 10, so overall, I know you'll go in detail as we proceed, but my question is, so even if we have to pray to demigods or do a sacrifice for them, if we think in our mind it is going for Krishna, then is that correct, Prabhuji? The reason why I'm asking that question, sometimes like when not everyone would be in Krishna consciousness, say
Yes.
some devotee, some friends, they may call us for some kind of puja rituals. Sure. And then for them, we cannot say no because you can't just be like, sometimes it becomes difficult even with our own family members. So at that time, though we are doing any kind of a donation or praying or anything, if we think, Krishna, I'm doing this, but ultimately this goes to you. If we think like that, is that correct or is it sufficient? Because we cannot avoid saying, oh, I cannot, but we still have to respect the demigods. So I get a little confused when we come across those situations.
Yeah, of course, Mataji, and nothing to get confused about. What you said is fine because you as a devotee understand that the demigods, if somebody is praying to them and the demigods award benedictions, the benedictions they award are on behalf of Krishna. They have been empowered by Krishna to award those benedictions. And the demigods, they are devotees of the Lord. So they themselves, they know that whatever benediction I am awarding to this person who's praying to me is because Krishna is giving it. Krishna is sanctioning it. Therefore, I am giving this benediction. So the demigods are very intelligent and advanced devotees of Krishna. When somebody approaches them for something, they go to Krishna and say, should I give it? Krishna says, okay, give it. Therefore, they give it. So, and as far as offering respects to the demigods is concerned, that we should always do. There is no confusion or complication about that. Because when we say Vancha Kalpatarubhascha, Kripa Sindhuve Vacha, we are offering our obeisance to all the Vaishnav devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they're full of compassion for fallen conditioned souls, right? That is the meaning of that prayer. So the demigods are also Vaishnava devotees of the Supreme Lord. We are offering our obeisances to them. We should always offer our obeisances to them. Now, if somebody doesn't know the connection between the demigods and Krishna, that's because they don't know. But we as devotees know, and we offer obeisances to all devotees, so why not to the demigods? They are advanced devotees of Krishna, and if we could see them, we would certainly offer our obeisances to them. So if you're invited to a ceremony where somebody is honoring a demigod, you should also offer obeisances. And of course, you understand that the demigods are wonderful devotees of Krishna, and they are more advanced devotees of Krishna than we are. So we offer with that understanding. We know Krishna is the ultimate. So does that help?
Yes, Prabhuji, it helps because, we see that, you know, our family members, they do celebrate all the other festivals like, you know, Ganesh Chaturthi, Dasara, but then I know in ISKCON temple we don't celebrate, but you know, when parents or friends and family, when they're doing, I feel we shouldn't disregard, because we still have to give respect.
Yes. Yes.
And at the same time, if we get into a situation where because of the old obligations or the family members or some situations where you have to make donations to those temples, is it wrong? Or can we say, Krishna, this, like you just answered, when you were answering in the beginning, you said, I forgot the exact sentence, we are giving this to you, like that's how you feel in your mind, we are giving this to the demigods because it's Krishna's arrangement, or will something you mentioned?
Oh, no, I had said that when somebody approaches a demigod for a benediction, the demigods are intelligent devotees of Krishna. They consult, they approach Krishna and say, should we award this or not?
Okay.
And Krishna says, yes, go ahead, award. And so they know that they are doing this service on behalf of Krishna.
So even they are doing this at the sanction of Krishna.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's how we should think when, okay.
Yes, yes.
In Bhagavad Gita, he clearly says that, you know.
I'm sorry?
In Bhagavad Gita, one of the slokas, Krishna says very clearly, even whatever benedictions given by demigods, it is actually sanctioned by me.
I remember reading it, but I don't remember the shloka. So if that's the case, Prabhuji, like in the altar, you know, we keep our deities, but then, you know, before coming into Krishna consciousness, we would have been so used to like keeping Lord Ganesha or, you know, like those kind of demigod, Shivalinga, like that. Sure. Now, though we are doing the deity worship, like, you know, I get a little confused. I don't know if my question is very straightforward, but we should not keep in the altar at all? Is it like, oh my God, no, we don't. But we are still, we cannot just disregard or disrespect by taking it away from the altar because we've been praying. Is that wrong, Prabhuji, or I don't know what's the answer?
Yeah, no, I mean, you should never be disrespectful. I mean, we must be respectful, must be respectful. So from your heart, if you feel that you're being disrespectful, don't do anything that is disrespectful. And Krishna will guide from within, you know. So, and actually the verse that Mukta Sangha Prabhu was referring to, it's coming up, it's number 12. We are already at 9 today. So 12, 11 and 12, they are exactly about this. 11 says the demigod being pleased by sacrifice will also please you. And thus by cooperation between men and demigod, prosperity will reign for all. And then in 12, in charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods being satisfied by the performance of yajna will supply all necessities to you. The sanction of Krishna,
without offering them to the demigods.
sanction of Krishna is somewhere else, actually. Wait.
No, in the same 12th shloka, the second sentence, but he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. So that means we should also offer to demigods.
Because if you're taking from them and if you don't offer back to them, then you're just taking. Then that's,
like a
that's
thief.
not good. So anyway, we'll come to the verse somewhere. It's there where the sanction, the demigods are sanctioned by the Supreme Lord. That also comes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I'm sorry, Prabhu.
Rati Priyamatayi has raised her hand. So
Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. Prabhu, when you were speaking about Nishkama Karma,
Yes,
that time the thought came into my mind that like you said, we are not attached to the results, but it's like sometimes, in ISKCON especially, like there are always times when they ask for donations, and then there are times when we ourselves want to give donations.
yes,
So sometimes we just want to give, there are different reasons which can be considered like we are attached to the result.
of
Like
course.
say I want the good of my child or something like that. Like it's not always
Sure.
for pleasing Krishna. So in any case, my question is that sometimes when we give donations, that time like we, Prabhu, there are many times when it's not used for the purpose for which we have given. And like supposing if I'm giving say something for say the dresses of the deities, but
Right.
maybe it's used for bhoga, so it's okay because it's used in Krishna's service.
Yes.
But sometimes like funds could be what can I say, misused,
Right.
as in someone could use it for themselves in a way that is not appropriate. So in that situation, do I get the benefit or do I get the karma, or should I even be thinking about, like when I'm donating funds, should I even be thinking that, okay, is this going to be really used for what I'm donating for? Or I just donate without, I just leave it to Krishna. Like, I just donate it and I leave it to Krishna. However it's used, whoever's misusing, using, is not my business. Like what should be my mood when I'm donating money? But when I'm donating kind, like in kind, then it's okay because it has to be used for Krishna.
Right.
But if I'm donating cash, then do I get the karma if it's not used? Especially now we know, like in India, especially this Ram Janmabhoomi and all this, like they have been asking for a lot of funds. So actually a friend of mine, she had donated, and somehow she's a disciple of our Guru Maharaj, and somehow she came to know that there's a lot of malpractice going on. So she was asking me this question, that do I get the karma, do I not get the karma? So I just wanted to ask you that, Prabhu.
It's a very good question, Madhaji, and something that we have to address very responsibly. I mean, the thing is that the mood with which you make the donation is very important. So, like you said, if I donate with a mood to serve Krishna, and then how exactly that money is being used, I may not necessarily be able to follow the last penny to where it was used, right? I mean, if it is, like you said, if you donate for the dress, you know it's gone for the dress. But sometimes it's not so clear. So your mood of offering is your main thing. And of course, you're offering at a bona fide place. That is also very important. See, if you're offering in a temple for Krishna with the mood to serve Krishna, then I think it's fine. But if it is misused by someone, then, I mean, I am not the authority on this because karma is a very complicated thing. But the person misusing it would be responsible, right? Because you have made the donation to serve Krishna, not to do anything other than that. So I know these discussions come up now as far as Ram Janmabhoomi is concerned. Now that if the person donated with the intention of serving Lord Ram, that's fine. Now that they have come to know that, okay, that things are not being used in that manner, then maybe going forward they should think twice. But if your intention was to serve Krishna and your intention was clean, then I think Krishna is very merciful. He will reward you for your intention.
Actually, in later chapters, all these things are discussed, Prabhu. Charity in the mode of goodness, charity in the mode of passion and ignorance.
Yeah.
So all these are very clearly discussed. Srila Prabhupada gives very nice in his purports. So most of these, the questions what Ratipriya Mata is asking are answered there.
Yeah, exactly, Prabhuji. I totally agree with Mukta Sangha Prabhu. Like in the 17th chapter, like
Yeah, 17.
divisions of faith. So there it mentioned clearly like austerity in the mode of ignorance, passion, and goodness. So like I was going through that the verse which is given 17.14. So there it said like to whom we should do the austerity, like
Yeah.
Prabhuji is asking. So exactly that is the same mention in the translation. If you see that austerity of the body consists in worshipping of Supreme Lord. So first we have to do austerity for the Supreme Lord, the Brahmanas, the spiritual master, and austerity like father and mother, and in the cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy, and non-violence. So furthermore, several, further explanations are there again in the further verses about the austerity. So what should be about the austerity?
Yeah, and there is reference made to Desha Kale, right place, right time, for the right purpose. And Mataji's question is very detailed. It is like a specific this thing, because these are perfect. Like even in 13, you see, it's any sacrifice performed without regard for the direction of the scriptures, without distribution of prasadam, without chanting of Vedic hymns, and remuneration to the priest, and without faith is considered to be the mode of ignorance. So all that is described, and to translate that into our day-to-day situation, like Mataji is asking, then we can take guidance from these guidelines. But again, if you are giving, if you're giving in the temple is the right place, you're giving on a certain occasion is the right time. Now, but if it is being used for a purpose other than what you thought, then that becomes tricky. But from your side, if your intent is to serve Krishna, then I think you are quite clean. What do you all think, Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Welcome, Mataji. This is, other thoughts or anything, Muktasana Prabhu, Ram Prabhu, anybody else?
I think we are good, Prabhu. We extended the today. 9:30. Kirtida Kumari has some question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavats pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. No,
it's not a question, Prabhuji. I was just thinking of the question what Saujanya Mataji had asked, like having demigods in our altar or worshipping or celebrating their festivals and all that. So I was just remembering where Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada was, in many of his lectures, and also in Bhagavad Gita, it is given like, we have to water the roots and not necessarily every branch or twig. So when we get to the level of understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, then we will respect all the demigods, but we'll just do the prayers to Krishna alone, who is the Supreme, because we understand that. So, at this point, like we know that no one else is independent. They're all depending on Krishna. So I was just thinking like, depending on our faith, how much we have on Krishna, so much we will feel comfortable worshipping only Krishna. But still we may attend the pujas arranged by the families or even celebrate the festivals, but we understand that Krishna is the only Supreme Personality. I was just thinking, no confusion or anything when you understand that this is the only thing what I am doing.
Right. No, that's a very nice point, Mataji, and it comes from within. And let Krishna guide from within. One gradually comes to that point.
Yes. Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. That's a very nice clarification of that point.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Prabhuji,
Mataji.
Prabhuji, I think this understanding that is very, very correct, and this same it answers to the previous question as well. To whom we should do the austerity. So once from within we understood like Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So instead of doing austerity here and there, I mean, if we give the austerity to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, where from there where the root is. So twigs will be and leaves will be, branches will be all, means all will be nourished.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Watering the root. Yeah.
Yeah. So like if we go further, in the previous question discussion was going on, where Ratipriya Mataji was saying that her friend or relative whosoever donated there in the Ram Janam Bhoomi. So whether that money later she realized whosoever donated that whether that money was utilized or not utilized. So as per when I have heard the in the lectures from acharyas, like if we do not donate somewhere and that money is improper used, so we are generating our karma in that. Suppose I gave to the beggar, and that beggar thinking that he is the beggar, but he is using for some other purpose, nonsense purpose. So I am involved in that. I'm getting karma on that. So because Krishna has given intelligence to whom to give the donation, to whom to give the austerity. So we have to, and that is what in the 17th chapter mentioned, like whether are we giving, we have to think of, are we doing austerity in ignorance? So yes, there is the karma. Or if we are doing austerity in goodness, there is no karma. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very important point, Prabhuji, and it is very important to follow, because you're right. I mean, I've also heard that and read that if you, out of compassion, give somebody some money, and that person turns around and uses it for some nonsense food or drink or something, then you get the karma. But if you're donating to the temple, if you're donating to the temple, then that is correct. That is the right place to be giving, right purpose. Now, if after you donate to the temple, if somehow it is being misused, then don't know about the karma part as far as we are concerned, because we have given to the right place. See, what can be better than giving to a temple of Krishna, right?
Yeah.
We should be careful not to just give it to any beggar on the street or something, for you don't know what they are going to use it for. That's why, like, if we support programs like our ISKCON goes out and feeds people who are homeless and all that. It is better to fund the food for life kind of thing, or the food program which goes and feeds homeless people, rather than just giving the money to a homeless person, because then you don't know how it's being used.
Right.
But within a bona fide place like a temple, if somebody is misusing, then that's a very complicated question.
Yeah.
But hopefully we should be okay, because we are giving to the temple. We are giving to Krishna. There can be nothing better than giving to Krishna. So
it's a nice discussion, debate project. We are
yes,
learning
very nice.
which is practical in our life.
Yeah, yes, very nice questions.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
All right, Prabhuji, Mataji.
So
Before I let everyone go, as usual, I have some announcements. Actually,
Sorry, Prabhuji, one thing I wanted to say, I think Vishal was our neighbor, so he
yes, that's what I was about to mention.
Yeah.
Vishal was there on the call at the beginning of this call. Vishal, it's not actually Vishal, it was Leena Mataji, right? Leena Mataji.
Yeah.
She was there on this call, but we missed her because we went overtime. So thanks to
Right.
Leela Mataji who invited her. So if you can please invite next week, we'll try to maintain our time limit.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely she will benefit from this association. So please welcome her next week, Mataji. Invite her, and I will introduce her to our Bhakti Vriksha.
We should introduce her in the beginning.
Yeah. So thank you very much again. This Sunday is a special program, as you all know, it's Pauganda Pravachan. It's a Pravachan by kids. And this week it will be from Mukunda Prabhu is from Tampa, Florida. And he's 8 years old. We'll be talking about Gundi Chamarjanam, the cleansing of the temple. It's basically cleansing of our heart. Temple means our heart. So he'll be giving lecture about that, Gundi Chamarjanam. He's 8 years old, so please attend and then encourage him. It will be useful for adults also. Please join same Zoom credentials, Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. on this Sunday. I'll send out the flyer. And evening 8 p.m. as usual, it's Chaitanya Bhagavad from His Grace Ajita Prabhu. It's a different Zoom credentials. I'll send that. Thank you very much again for joining. Thank you very much, Ajit Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you all, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.